Good morning, bros. It is officially time. It is race day. So this will probably be like the last couple times I talk before the race, but I just want to go over getting breakfast ready. We are actually throwing down some protein. I made the decision because I feel really good waking up, but 2 whole eggs, 2 English toast muffins with the olive oil butter, and a little bit of smoked ham that I have from the deli meat crap. But anyways, throw that down. Well, bam, another muffin just went. Topping off my hydration, we're already at a really good level, so I'm pretty happy. But topping it off with my creatine, BCAAs, and another Noon tablet, and I had a little hydration stick. It's like another 225 milligrams of sodium. I don't know what the potassium level is. I didn't look, but just topping it off. But we're clear, if you get what I'm saying. So got my coffee, gonna try to push out some debris before I leave the house to head up to meet with the guys. And yeah, so this is not my race kit. I'm not wearing this. This is gonna be underneath, but it's cold. So I think it's currently 18 to 20 degrees outside right now, which is horrendous. So anyways, we'll go over my race kit and fueling strategy in just a second. All right, so we're down on the floor with my golf clubs, but my race day kit is sitting right here. Obviously going to be rocking my Garmin Instinct GPS watch. I'm going to be wearing my Asics Nova Blast 4s, review coming soon, probably like after this video. Got my bib. Bringing my sunglasses, one, because the sun's going to be coming up over the city on the return route, so that stuff can get blinding. Plus, this also makes a great windshield, so there is supposed to be some wind. 3 goos, which I'll go over in the fueling strategy in just a second so I can get off the floor. And I'm wearing a Reebok Tech Fit top. It's really thin, it's really light. I picked it up yesterday just because I was like, I need something to cover myself from the wind and being too cold. That does the trick. And then my socks. They're just basic socks. I'm not one of those ones that goes crazy with socks. I have a couple cool pairs, but I didn't feel like busting them out for today. So deal with it. And then I'm going to have a throwaway jersey cotton sweatshirt so that way I can throw that in the donation before the race starts. So that's that. Okay, so now talking fueling strategy. So obviously I'm eating now. It's about 4 a.m. This will be fully digested by race time, which is 7:30. But the plan is I'm bringing 3 goos with me. One will be taken about 30 minutes before the race starts, just to top off any carb sources, glycogen, etc. Give me something in my stomach. One will be taken at around mile 6. I was training to basically split the race in half over 1 goo, and it worked pretty well, so I have that there. Usually you have about 90 minutes worth of glycogen in the system. I know that I will be at about 50 to 48 minutes at mile 6, so I intend to just top off before I get into the harder miles, because my plan is to negative split from like mile 6, 7. I think I said this in the track workout video. And then I brought a third one just in case I need something in the last leg of the race, like the final 8 from like mile 8 forward. I don't know if I will. I didn't really check. I felt pretty good when I did a 12-miler, but I did a 12-mile easy, so we'll see what happens. But 3 goos, 3 opportunities to refuel. As far as fluids go, I know on course they're supposed to have water, and I think they have Gatorade, so that's fine with me. And yeah, I'm also good with taking these raw. I'm usually pretty good unless my mouth's dry, but we should be all right. But I'm going to eat, get dressed, and I'm going to go ahead to meet up with the bros. I will see you guys after the race. So we did it. Of course, the hardware to prove we did it. So very nice. BMW band on it. It's kind of cool. But yes, by the skin of our teeth, we did it. I came in at 1:44:38. Now, I underestimated this course a little bit. I was going through I had to get into a dark spot at the end to really kind of feel it. And you can kind of see it in my face still now that I'm looking at it. And Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back. That's better. I got my coffee. I know drinking this late in the game, but I could use a little bit. I'm trying to get a couple things done before I go to sleepy time. But yes, we finished at 144.35, I think it said. Put it up on the screen, but we did it. And it was very, very hard. Got into a pretty heavy spot at the end. There was some hills that I did not anticipate for. I knew they were there too, and like mentally I was like, it's gonna be easy. And they were a bit harder than I thought. So to describe the course before I go into my splits, because I don't have my splits active in front of me, I'll have to take a quick look at them again. But mile 1 through 5 really, was pretty much city mileage. As far as hills, there really wasn't anything with too steep of a pitch. It was a lot of rolling hills, but it was early in the morning. I believe we started at like 7:30. My wave went out maybe 7:40, 7:45-ish. I forget exactly what Strava said, but yeah, we started at like 7:40-ish, and it was around 25 degrees in the sun and around 18 degrees in the shade. Now, the problem is at 7:30, 7:40, the sun is kind of shaded behind the skyscrapers. So it was very cold in a lot of areas, and it was just like, and I took my gloves off that I brought with me. I had a pair of throwaway gloves that I should have kept a little longer, but I didn't want to have to carry my gels and carry my phone in one hand, and then like when I go to eventually ditch them, because I did get really warm, have to put everything in one hand, take one glove off while not trying to drop 2 gels and a phone, and then put everything back in the other hand, take it off, and do it again while trying to run 7.5 miles per hour. So planning ahead, but the first 4 miles I could not feel my fingers at all. It was rough, but we muscled through. So after that, once you get through mile 5, to get to mile 6 is a corkscrew. Now these things, they suck. It's just to get onto the bridges to cross the Schuylkill River, and it's, you come up, you go, and then like right at the top, you swear you're just climbing a wall. But after that, you go downhill for a while, and then you're out in the Strawberry Mansion area, which is just along the riverside. It's a real nice flat path, maybe a little bit of rolling, but it's nothing too steep of a gradient. After that, once you make the turnaround into mile 9, mile 10 is a kicker, because you're climbing up into Paramount Park and Paramount Park or Fairmount Park, either way, I'll look it up. Either way, you're climbing up a hill. I zoned out here, which was hilarious. And when I talk about the splits, it's funnier. But after that, you get one downhill, and then one last little punch in the nads of an uphill, and then you're back downhill one more time, and then you finish. So yeah, it was a lot more hills than I was anticipating, and a lot colder than I was hoping for, because I'm okay in like 45, but 18 is a rough temperature. But yeah, so let's get into the splits. All right, so going into the splits, I'm going to put them up on the screen, so while I'm reading them, you guys can kind of see exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm going to talk about like as I'm going, so get used to it. Anyways, so the first mile, I went out a little bit faster than I expected, but unfortunately, looking down at my watch was kind of difficult, because one, it was crowded, so I was trying to mind my space and also trying to find space to continue getting into my groove. But I started out in the corral behind the 1 hour and 50-minute pacer, and my goal was just to kind of cruise right along them and then pass them later in the race. And my initial plan, but I didn't realize this till later in the race, was to catch up with the 145 group in the back half of the race. But when you register for the race and you put your time in and then they organize your corral, the 145 pacer was actually in the corral in front of me. So I was in the green, they were in, I believe it was the blue. So they actually started about 4 minutes ahead of me. So really, if I was trying to chase them, it was probably me chasing closer to a 140 than a 145. So I would have probably gassed myself or surprised myself, surprisingly, and got a 140 if I would have tried to catch the 145 pacer. So I'm glad I realized that pretty early on. But yeah, So mile one was 8:29, like I said, a little bit faster than I was expecting. Honestly, I was anticipating closer to an 8:40. But because of the GPSs being all screwed up, being in the city and so much frequencies, I had a really hard time these first 4 miles tracking my speed because I'd randomly see a 9-minute mile. So this is something you may deal with if you're doing city races or just large quantity races in general. But mile two was 7:39. Not what I was supposed to be doing. So I had to tone it back. I did find into an 8:06 pace, and I spent a lot of my time drafting through the race to try to, make it a little bit easier on my body early on in the stages. But drafting. What is drafting for those who do not know? Well, drafting, pretty common in automobile racing, also works well in all sorts of other types of racing, but it's illegal in triathlon biking, so you gotta watch that. But anyways, in running, what you would do is you see somebody who's perhaps a little bit bigger than you, proper thing with being a short king. I'm like 5'8", 5'9". So get behind somebody and they block the wind for you. So I spent a lot of time drafting behind this gentleman that I will put up on the screen on either side of me. And he was about 6 foot. And so it worked really well for me to draft and save some energy in the race because I wasn't the one pushing the wind and having to deal with anything that was coming towards us. So it's, I think, called slipstreaming as well, but drafting, it's great. Make sure you use it. Anyways, so yeah. I spent most of the first 4 miles drafting, which scored me the 8:29, 7:39, 8:06, and the 7:48 miles 1 through 4. Absolutely fine with those because I think it averages out to a little bit, I think around an 8:05, somewhere in that ballpark. So worked out just fine. But after that, the race kind of broke off because the people that were in the 7K takeoff, there were a few people in the 7K apparently because they were telling us to go that way if you're 7K and go that way if you're half marathon. So I lost a few people to draft with and it kind of broke up the pack a good amount. So it became harder to find people to draft off of. I tried to do it for the rest of mile 5. I ended up pulling a 7:56 in mile 5, which was just fine. But after that, the first hill came up. And I ended up falling back only to an 8:05, which really wasn't that bad. And I was honestly okay with. And then I did my fueling mile where I took my first gel in the race. I took 1 gel earlier in the corral. I think I mentioned that in the fueling strategy part, but just as a reminder. And that was still a 7:59 mile, which is usually a lot slower for me, but I think there was a lot of rolling downhills. So it worked out in my favor to help my speed. At that point, my brain was like, it's probably time to start negative splitting. And I managed to get into a 7:52, but then we hit the turnaround and all the hills started coming up. I went into a 7:58, still not bad. I mean, it's still under my first mile. But then the big hills came and I went 8 for mile 11, 8:14 for mile 12, but then the hills were done with. And I got into a dark place in my head and went to a 7:38 for mile 13 and managed to cross the finish line at a 6-minute, 16-second mile. I wish I had video of that because I was absolutely just like flying up the spectator side, just blowing by people. Like it was a new level of energy that I don't think I've ever tapped. A lot of what I was thinking about was my mother. I don't know. I went into a dark spot after my mother's passing. So it was like, it made me think about how far I've came from, my days of just being a dumb, belligerent alcoholic to becoming a pretty decent runner and enjoying being fit and being healthy and taking the best that I have to offer and putting it out to the world. So I was really happy to have that moment. It was really emotional across the finish line. I actually was like bro hugging up with some guy that I don't even know. We were just dapping up and it was a good time. I think the photographer caught that, so it'd be pretty cool to see. Hopefully that photo's there. But even the photographer, he saw like I looked like I was like really like worked up and like upset and like I like cried a little bit, not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie about it. I cry sometimes. What you gonna do about it? Anyways, but he asked me, he's like, "You okay?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, I'm cool. I'm just, hurting, a little sore, but it wasn't injury sore." So all in all, went great as far as the splits go. I mean, it wasn't originally what the plan was calling for, but it did the job and it did the job just fine. So that we can be proud of. And of course, the other thing that makes this whole sport so fun is, yes, running seems to be a very individualistic sport. It's really just you and your body versus you, unless it's a relay race, but this not being a relay race. But me running predominantly with a club, you make some really good friends and teammates in a way. And getting to see all of them throughout the race, I got to link up with our ball of energy and enthusiasm, JoJo, as he was in mile 5, shooting for his PR. This is, I believe, his 4th love run, so he was very excited, having a great time, full of energy as always. Got to see him. After that, got to see our good boy Blazing Bill. I got to high five him as he was going in. He ended up finishing with like a 1:23, even though he had to pee. He was not even 4 minutes shy of being in the top 50, but apparently he said there was a ton of people finishing around the same time as him, so he was like, yeah, he's like, I was actually like 90th, which is still insane to think about, being in under the triple digits in a 6,000 person race. So super excited for him. Then got to see Chris, the other Chris, Josh, Eric. Everybody was having a good time. Joey was there too. He's back after a hamstring injury. So it was very good to see everybody out on the course, having a good time. We linked up with a lot of people in the beginning, so it was really cool to be able to go as a team, because it's always encouraging. And it's great when you're trying to chase your individualistic goals, but you can make an effort to encourage and hopefully take some inspiration and give some inspiration to others as they push for what they're going for. So take a moment and be thankful for the people you meet along the way while you're out on this journey for yourself, ultimately. But that is it. We accomplished the originally sub 150 and went right into sub 145. So where do we go from here? Well, I'm going to take a short hiatus from half marathon PR smashing, because apparently that's what I'm pretty good at. So I'm actually going to be doing some short races throughout the summer and spring. Quick list of them is Memorial Day. I'm running a 5K. I'm shooting for under 22 minutes. I'm trying to get in the 21 range. If I could get 20, that'd be amazing. That's ultimately what I would like to get to. But last year I struggled really hard with getting under 22. So right now it's like, if I could get 21 now, I think I could get under 21 later and get 20. So that's the ultimate goal. Next is my 10K goal. Now that is happening in June, late June. I have a race that I normally do every year. It was actually my first 10K ever, and then I linked up with that club and became pretty good friends with a lot of the people there. So 10K, shooting for under 45 minutes. Pretty aggressive goal, but I've actually been really close to it for some reason. And I think now that like my brain is like, oh, well, you ran a 7:59 half marathon, you need to run a 7:20 10K. I feel like I should be able to do that. The only thing that might hold me back is that race is notoriously hot and humid, so I got to be prepared for that. I also have the Broad Street Run, May 5th. That is a pretty big race for the city of Philadelphia. Yet again, doing it with the club. I don't really race 10 milers too often. It's like a training run distance for me. So I don't really have a goal per se for that race, but I mean, hey, whatever happens, happens. I mean, I'd like to see me shoot for, I don't know, 7:30 pace for 10 miles. That'd be pretty cool. I think I could hit that. So we'll just see what happens. We're going to have fun with that race. I've always wanted to do it, and I got selected for the lottery this year. So pretty excited. And then after that, big one for the summer. This is going to be the next training build series that you're probably going to see out of me. And that is, I'm doing my first ultra marathon in August. I am doing the Loopy Looper by Endless Endurance in Cooper River Park, Pensacola, New Jersey. And I will be doing the 12-hour Looper, which is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. around a 3.6 mile loop. So it's not trails, it's sidewalk, so shouldn't be too bad. I mean, I don't know what's worse, 50 miles on trails or 50 miles on pavement. So we're going to see what happens. But the goal distance is 54 miles, because that is actually the distance between where I'm currently sitting and the Hooters in Newcastle, Delaware. Why did I pick that location? Well, I don't know. They got good wings. That Daytona sauce is fire. They usually always have some good sports on. I could have picked the Krispy Kreme, but there's one in New Jersey, so there's Hooters in New Jersey too. But don't question. But finally, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for following along and encouraging me. I really like being able to show you guys my process with how I do things. One, it keeps me accountable for how I train, and I'm sure if there's somebody in there that's smarter than me on how to train, they could easily critique me, and I'd listen. I mean, I know my body pretty well, but there's obviously more optimal training ways that people could always throw my way. Or I could be showing somebody else a way that they didn't think to train and it works for them. So that's what I like about the social aspect of being in social media, the internet. It's a great thing sometimes. But yeah, that is it. So the next couple of weeks, probably not doing like a training vlog. I am going to go through a 8-week cut, just trying to lose a little extra weight. I'm in a good spot. I'm currently holding about 194, 193. Put a little picture up of that, a little thirst trap photo I took the other day because my lighting in my kitchen is immaculate, to say the least. But my plan is to get closer to about 180 pounds, not just for race weight, but for just my normal weight, because I'm still considered overweight for my size, regardless of being able to do some pretty incredible things at my current weight. So, anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the series. Hope you learned something. I learned a lot. And thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Later, bros.